I said while before, I say it again. What a speaker. Thank you, Jane. You are amazing. You are an inspiration. Thank you. Well, you mentioned several things that we're going to be talking about and expanding about today, and one of them is how to be more effective in making ourselves heard to the U.S. government. This is something that Victoria is going to be talking about, as well as Senator Joseph Abruzzo and Frank Biden, the brother of the vice president, because Lord knows we do what we're told, we make phone calls, we sign petitions. Usually none of that is effective. We're going to learn today how to be more effective. And where's my sister Karen? Oh, there she is. I just want to say a big thank you to her, because we would not be here if not for her. Okay. Yeah. That's right. She deserves a standing ovation. Thank you, Karen. If you look to this wall over here, you will see the picture of some Mustangs. Now, that dark, handsome guy over there in the large photos is Nelson, and he was captured as a foal in 1999. He came here in 2005, and you can see him here. And that cute little baby over there comes from the Pryor Mountains. He is 7 years old, and he is here also, thanks to the Cloud Foundation and the people at the Horse Protection League in Colorado. We also have a New York City carriage horse here, Bobby to Freedom, who we rescued together with Betty Farrell's group, Elizabeth Farrell's group, the Coalition to Ban Horse-Drawn Carriages. And we have lots and lots of PMU mares who came here from Manitoba, Canada. So they're all ambassadors for others who need help. And the list of speakers that are here today, you know, we could in parentheses call ourselves the North American Equine Summit, because we have Dr. Ray Kelasamy from British Columbia. He traveled here from the west side of Canada with his wife Noreen just to be here to talk about PMU, and also horse slaughter and how our countries, what will happen to the Canadian horse slaughter industry if we ban it here. Hopefully it will fall apart. That is the goal. But he is going to be talking about those two issues, and he's going to end the summit by tying everything together. We very carefully choreographed the order and positions of these speakers so that they follow in a certain order, and so that it all makes sense. And I want to open with our catalyst, Victoria McCullough, who made this all possible. Without her, we would not have the defunding language. I mean, yes, the vice president added the language, but without her and Senator Abruzzo and all of the people on their team, and there are too many to mention, we would probably have horse slaughterhouses operating now. So I can't, I don't know. I don't even know what to say. There's nothing I can say. There's no way to introduce her except to say Victoria McCullough.
It's hard to speak after an introduction like that. But truthfully, my first attendance at this summit was exactly as she said, is that I did feel alone. I felt alone because I didn't learn about horse slaughter until relatively late in the end of 2007. And I live a very lovely life, and I always thought horses have a terrific life. Everyone loves them, and they retire like everyone would think they would. And I had the most amazing mentality, and I had a very serious wake-up call. A professional periodical that's on the internet that gives us the results of show horses where I participate, and they had an article about yearlings that had been going to slaughter, and I thought, we slaughter yearlings? You know, I can't believe this. We do this. And then I began to look in it, and I went to the Humane Society's video, which is so helpful because it sends you on a trip to the slaughterhouse. And you watch horses go through the chute, and you watch the issues, and you can't, your life after you see that video, if you love horses, is really very different. And thank heavens for them, for their awareness, and the major organizations, because awareness for these great, the ASPCA and the Humane Society is what they do. And those videos and their stories and what they do tells people like me who should know. So if you're me, I'm an engineer and I have this funny mind, and engineers are born, they're not made. They grow up trying to figure out why butterflies fly, and they jump out of their chauffeur's garage and try and fly, and they do all these amazing things. But they want to fix things. They like to fix things. And they see a problem, and they look into the integrity of what is there and what can be enhanced. So I traveled to Sugar Creek, Ohio in 2007, and we bought 82, the entire slaughter auction, and they traveled to Florida. And then we went back in the spring and we bought 263. And then we've been going back ever since. But once I got known, it's hard with social media once you do things, and first they thought I was Madeline Pickens, which is great. And she's one of my heroes, and she's a true heroine in the West, and I love her so much, and I was so honored. And then they somehow figured it out, and all of a sudden I was an oil heiress, and then they figured it out. So I had to go underground. And in order to go underground and to make it work, you have to really be underground. So what we did is develop a program in the university, and I'm not going to mention it, but we developed a program to teach a major vet school what is going to slaughter. I wanted interns. I wanted people that are future veterinarians to see what waste is happening in America every Monday and Friday, and I wanted them to see it firsthand, because the average age of horses going to slaughter at Sugar Creek is 3 to 4 years old. I have 4,333, last week we had 3 added to Jamie Dodson's Legacy Mustang. Thank you, Jamie. 4,316 horses, and I put down 26 total. And the horses are useful, young, helpful, and it's a waste system. It's unbelievable. There is no justification of what's really going to slaughter, and I don't think anybody in America knows better than we do about the ages and the usefulness and the recyclability. And other organizations will say, we have all these unwanted horses. Well, what does unwanted mean? Unwanted for 24 hours? Unwanted because of that time you don't have the income? We all know that one of the greatest times in numbers were, from John Holland's analysis, is that 2008. The economy was dreadful and hay prices were up, so were horse abandonment. The economy is the direct result of horses going to slaughter. With the analysis that we have, over 4,000 horses, we can now show that. The animals that are going are so unfortunate because the circumstance is individual. But one thing is clear, it's easy to abandon them. Accountability does not exist. You can look in the USDA's description in horse slaughter and horses in their definitions. It doesn't say anything about accountability. It doesn't say anything about anyone that once you buy them, is there a responsibility. It allows for a waste system immediately, which is unfortunate. It's hard to make America accountable. Jane's entire speech was just that. Her entire speech of everything she just said was about no one is accountable. The government has direct issues. But people, Bundy, the individuals that she's talking about, the individuals looking to begin monkey research, there's no accountability. In today's world, in order to go into the government and make a change, we had the information. I had a great amount of horses, and then the truth is, I'm no hero. I'm just a messenger, because the information that Dr. Nicholas Dodman and Anne Marini, these wonderful, brilliant people that give us the entire information on this particular document, Food and Chemical Toxicology Report, was the doorway for me to win. Because science will win in horses on the hill, not cruelty. Cruelty is you're desensitized. It happened. What did Jane talk about? Every single element that she just spoke about. Carriage horses, wild horses, slaughter horses. It's a cruelty, and we're inundated with it. That's what we're run over with. That's what's running over us. It's not cattle and it's not horses. Cruelty is running over America, in our children, in our animals, in our education system. We are not accountable. So in order to win in the government, it has to be intellectual, scientific, and I had to leave my emotions behind completely. I couldn't take it with me. It lives with me every day. Believe me, when you visit these organizations and you see people like Susan, it's easy for me to rescue horses. I can afford it. Susan fundraises, and look what she's produced. This is the hero. These are the people that make it work, that it isn't in their checkbook. They get it from people and create people to find and come to their boards and learn. School children come and see Nelson. They come and understand what a wild horse is. Jamie Dodson is creating the East Coast, a sanctuary for people to see it. Ginger Catherine's is fighting the real war. That's the real war, is the locals. Getting involved with the locals. Calling me up and saying, I need you to come in here. She called me in August and said, I want you to, okay, you're a cute queen of slaughter, but get your ass out here and get in the West and get fighting. And she did. And I said, okay, so what do you want me to do? And she says, well, there's this cantankerous Indian chief, and we're suing him, and he's not doing things right, and we need you to buy these horses because they're sending it to slaughter. So I'm very intelligent at this point in government use. I got the sitting senator to make the negotiations because it's much easier to work that way. So we save 150, and I have 56 of those mares in Nevada, and they're all having foals. And it never made the impact on me until the foals were dropped. And I went, oh my goodness, you know, it's unbelievable. And I've got them in a holding facility, and I've got to go out there and figure out how to win in the West, how to unite the entities in the West. Because if you think I'm dramatic on the Hill, these people are really, really insistent of seeing their rangeland protected, and they don't want to get up in the morning and see cattle herds. Madeline Pickens, Mustang Monument. Oh my goodness. Look what this woman's doing. She went to the Transportation and Tourism show in London, and she's completely booked for the summer. Because people really want to come see it from Singapore, from all over the world. She's an American safari. That is our American safari. You know, the Salt River herd. Horses living in a river. How amazing is that? You know, really and truthfully, we've got to identify with what we care about in this country. And one thing I found out what we can care about is really amazing, is that I decided to fight. I hired lobbyists. I got the team together. The Podesta group is amazing. I mean, you get these amazing people. And Senator Abruzzo, he's used to me beating him up because in 2010 I dragged him all across the state of Florida to pass the Equine Protection Bill in a state that wouldn't pass the bestiality law. So Florida has issues. Florida has issues, but we're trying. We're really trying. The governor came out to visit a little community in the Glades where sugar is grown, and I asked him for some help regarding the senators very involved in improving the lives of this particular district. There wasn't a vote for the for the governor out there, and he came, and he's looking at manufacturing facility in a prison and so on. It's getting them out there and putting them on the spot. It's getting a politician and not letting them say anything or not letting their staff fill it in. It's getting them and putting them on the spot and saying, okay, now what? Now what? And so in the past, we could win the House with slaughter. The House was supportive. And Whitfield and everyone was terrific. They were great. But the Senate in the last 10 years has been our failure. The Senate was just a giant rock that wouldn't move. So when I left the summit and promised Susan that I would hire lobbyists and I would win, lobbyists is one thing, but you have to direct where lobbyists are going. And you have to live horses and understand them. And they came to me and said, well, Victoria, we don't even know how to charge you for this because there's always this wonderful victory clause that when you win, there's a bonus on how much you're going to make and how much that applies to you. In my case, I don't make anything. So that didn't work. And then they feel badly because you're not winning and it's not industry, and then they have to tailor a response for you. But they do. the truth is compelling people, just like we are in this room, and making people feel what we feel, not with a pressure, but a velvet hammer. This is what walks in the room. This education, a toxicology report that, I kid you not, is one of the most frightening things if you read it, that there is no way that horses can be an agricultural product around the world. And one individual who criticized this article is truly amazing, because his response was, if it can't be detected, if a drug can't be detected or in the test, it does not exist. Now, I live in science. Academia is my world. Because when you don't see me with horses, what I'm very interested in is research in blinding eye disease and paralysis. That's where I live every day. I sit on the board of Massachusetts Eye and Ear. I'm a trustee of the Scapin's Eye Research Institute, which is the largest ophthalmic research facility in the world. Joining these two as one, which was a brilliant idea that no place in the world exists, so that we could create an elimination of lag time between research and clinical application. So one of the two things that's the most humiliating things in the world is to lose the preciousness of sight. So for me, I'm very sensory. The wild horses. Horses in life not being shipped to slaughter in issues. Accountability is important. So we attacked the Senate with a full onslaught. I mean, Schwarzkopf did not have a team like I did to go for the Senate. And I grew up in a political home. I grew up in Washington, D.C., in the suburbs. My godfather was chief of protocol for Nixon. We lived politics. There are ambassadors in life. So my mentality is diplomacy with intelligence wins. So I hired Senator Abruzzo as a federal lobbyist to begin. Our first step was Michael Block. Michael Block was the agricultural liaison to the president. We had a meeting with the Department of Agriculture and Department of Transportation to try and devise a policy with eliminating horses being transported in double-decker cattle trucks, which is beyond inhumane. It's truthfully dreadful. And in the industry I live in, as most of you know, I'm in the petroleum industry, I have an amazing cost to my company to run tractor trailers, tankers and box trucks and dualies, whatever the hell I have on the road. It's amazing the cost to run those by the accountability of the government with inspections and so on. This industry, the horse slaughter industry, runs in the daylight and at night without any regulation. None at all. And state troopers, Sonia Meadows. Sonia Meadows is one of the greatest examples of showing us in media. She has brought us to everything into our living room. The cruelty of American horse slaughter is in our living room because of this brave woman who puts herself in danger and puts herself in position so that we can see the truth. State troopers follow behind these trucks, and they don't have a license plate. They have a driver without a license. They're driving a tractor trailer that hasn't been inspected. And therefore the chassis break with the overweight, the horrific accidents that turn over, and all of these issues. I showed Michael Block a video of Sonia's from Tennessee, where a tractor trailer's chassis had broken under the duress and horses were beheaded, and it was disgusting. But media is impact. You know as well, Jane, as media makes that answer. So that media works. From that meeting from Michael Block, we got the attention, is that someone was here that wasn't representing a charity, that wasn't going to be directed by board members, that could afford to stay there and wouldn't go away, but had a kind, compassionate heart that asked one thing of their government: accountability. Please look at what we're doing. We don't look at it because we don't want to think about it. That's what we do in life. We don't want to think about it. So from that step, we began the journey. And that step was the vice president, the control of the Senate. And the vice president, I will tell you truthfully, if you want encouragement that some things can work, I've never had an experience in my entire life that I dealt with anyone more gracious, more concerned, and more dedicated, and lived up to every single commitment and promise that he gave me. The man this man said, his direct quote was, in his residence, a little background is that my first meeting with him was in his residence at the Naval Observatory in Maryland. And you have to go through great security to get there, under your car, through the car. You have to have a chauffeur that's regulated. You have to have all of these issues. And you go through 20 minutes of checkout, where they look under your car, above your car, handbag, whatever. And then you get through and you come up a hill, and there's all these impressive gates and guards. And so when you come up a hill and into a grass courtyard, into a porte cochere, which is covered with dog toys. There were dog toys all over the lawn, and it was just great. I instantly felt at home because I have a lot of dogs at home, and I just like, this is great. And squeaky toys and balls and everything. And, you know, all the Secret Service are standing there being so afraid with their dog toys all over the steps and the porch and at the pool, and it was just great. And his German Shepherd Champ is what connects his heart to us, to all of us. And this man took his time, and he was going to South America, and he had limited time. I think we were given 30 minutes. And he had me come to his house because he cared. He cared about this issue. They knew who we were, but he cared. So we come to the residence, and it's incredibly intimate. You're very, very comfortable, and you can relax. It's not stiff, and it's just wonderful. We stayed almost 3 hours. His handlers were opening the doors going, and he was going, I don't care, I don't care. And and there's a photograph from that first meeting, that how intent he was, how he listened, and how he cared. And he said, Victoria, you're preaching to the choir. I'm with you. But give me the legality. Give me the legality to put this and stop it. Now, the truth was, originally, is that the language was removed inadvertently. It was in 1,900 pages of the stimulus bill, and it really wasn't caught. I was in Europe, and when I found out about it, I was a lag time of arrival. I couldn't fight it. But it really sort of slipped by. And this administration, I will tell you, since I have a lot to deal with it, this administration is working on a legacy at this point in the term, and they are concerned with food safety. They are concerned with, obviously, health goals, insurance, affordable insurance, and so on. And the other part about this is opportunities for job creations, for people to have equal opportunities, especially women and minorities. The compassion that is in this, once you get inside the administration, it truly is amazing, and it's overwhelming. And we fit right into this, because there's a global initiative for improvement of food safety and quality. We were all showing us that every day, is that we'll pay more for organics because we think it's not modified, we think it's not engineered, and we think there are less steroids and antibiotics. We're willing to pay for that. Well, so is the world. So this report from the toxicology report is so important when you're moving in that direction, because there's no way to justify an agricultural quality for horse meat. We can't really prove it that horses are safe, especially with the label law passed in November, which is really helpful because you need designations of origin for meat, designation of feedlot, designation of slaughter. Well, how do we fit the middle part in for horses? Feedlot? We don't have them until the end of their lives. Most horses are not sent to slaughter as foals, unless it's inadvertent their mother is going. Most horses go to slaughter at some point after activity or the low point of their lives. Of course they've had an additive. You can't live with horses. They won't live if they're not wormed. You can't graze horses and ignore worming. You can't have horses without some residue. And Dr. Hayes, I argue with you, because you can't find it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. This issue is testing fat, the way the USD did, is incredible. What kind of mentality is that? What lives in fat? You have to go to the blood, and you have to go to the organ. You absolutely have to. So what we did is we went to the Senate and got a nice, creative, solid support system. And then in order to give I knew we could win the budget. I knew we could win the budget. That wasn't a problem. But we're looking 5 steps ahead of that. How do we disqualify equines out of the chain? How do we remove them? And foreign policy and public policy in the United States are interlinked here. We have to win the EU. The EU and Canada must be in support of, and they're effective. And Alex in Canada is working so very hard in his party to bring this bill, which I believe May is his hearing, and we're going to help him. We're going to be there to help him in Canada. But they need a little support, especially that America now in defund is saying, oh, no, America and this administration chooses not to slaughter. I couldn't win the border closure without defund, because they're a pyramid. You have to have defund to have the legality. To get defund, we had to show that there's an issue. What are we really slaughtering, and for whom? Is it okay? Is it all right for the United States to send horses to slaughter from the United States, from a kill auction, sold to a kill buyer who is contracted by a foreign company sending horses for human consumption? Is it okay to do that, especially when we don't want it for our country? The United States says, no, we don't want it here. But it's okay for you. It's okay. We don't mind. The arrogance, the accountability, the double talk, double speak, is that it's okay not for us. We don't want it for us, but it's okay for you. Well, the liability doesn't disappear. Chinese drywall imported to the United States, built in homes in California and Florida specifically, lots of those numbers, as you all know what that is. That tainted drywall has made millions of people sick, and there is billions of dollars in settlements. It's called liability. The same liability is right here in the toxicology report. That's where we live. It's called accountability, and it's time right now. Is that let's concentrate on feeding people what we can and do and what's acceptable, and not take a chance. Why, are we willing to risk it? Does it make sense? Well, the Secretary of Agriculture also heard me in conference. I had him alone, and his ideas were, in March 21st last year, he changed his mind. He came out right in front of a food safety hearing and called me 10 o'clock in the morning. We spoke to his staff. His staff was fantastic. The secretary said, there has to be a better way. There's a better way, surprising everyone in his entire operation. And he's committed to that. The labor law passing in November, which no one thought would, is really helpful to us. We're on our way to disqualification. Now, so the funding, defund language was important. And the Vice President's commitment, this is where, sometimes we think government can't work. Obviously, it's about connection with a personality. This Vice President is very, very well known for going off his own and standing up for what he believes in. This is the kind of guy that you want. This is the kind of guy that you just get into his office and he'll go with you, and he'll stay with you till it's done. He's not going to abandon it because the weather in Washington has changed in 24 hours and it doesn't become popular. He's going to stay with you and do it. He did it himself. He said, the omnibus, we're going to put this language in the omnibus. We inserted this into the omnibus privately, secretly, basically, under the radar, so opposition wasn't there. And the one thing that we got, as soon as it went through Rules Committee, was the biggest part, the biggest victory today. The biggest victory today was the two individuals that are the most pro-slaughter in America, Harry Reid and Mitch McConnell. These two people in leadership were the denizen of slaughter. These people were the roadblock. And this is where the Vice President is a hero. After Rules Committee approved unanimously, the next step was leadership. The Vice President sought that leadership agreement that they would stand down and support this particular issue, and he won. So the next step is how do we keep, and we're also, to make everyone feel comfortable, is the budget issue, the budget that expires in September, we are in the continuing resolution. So that was also the Vice President and the Secretary of Agriculture, Vilsack. We are in the continuing resolution. We are safe. Nothing's coming to an end in September. We're safe. But now what do we do next? How do we end the borders? How do we stop sending horses abroad? My feeling, personally, is, and most of the academia behind me, declassify equines from the food chain. I have a way. I know how to temporarily keep horses from going across the border. I can't talk about it because I have to go underground with it. But it's in a very good place. It's in an agency that has enforcement, and we can gain that support. We'll get it. Our friends are in those committees. We'll get that. But the SAFE Act has a problem because of politics, not because of the beautiful senator that supports it and works so hard for it. The SAFE Act will probably not pass just strictly for politics, for an issue in politics. The House is a little bit ardent on trying to make a point. So the SAFE Act, which could end so many issues for us, probably will be hung up. And what I do, my job, is to find the other doorway. When you're locked out of a house, you don't keep trying to go in the door that's locked. You find the window, or you find a creative way. And that's my job. That's what we do. We find that creative way, like we did with the budget. And, you know, as Jane says, politicking has become more blustery and more blowhardy, and everyone has a bad idea. If you say politician, if I told my father that I was going to, you know, I wanted to go to public policy school, and I'd like to go into politics, my father would go, forget it, I'm not paying for your school. Because it doesn't have an honor system. It doesn't have integrity, because we've allowed it to be marred, and those who do have integrity get overwhelmed by those who don't have it. The truth is, find those who have it, who will make a commitment, who has power. Is there a money trail? Oh, yeah. Petroleum's helpful, though. I like it. I like it. You know, when someone says to you they want to see you in your office and you own Chesapeake Petroleum, usually you don't have much of a waiting line. It's very nice. And Chesapeake Petroleum is very, very proud of us. We're devising our new website, and we're going to educate everyone that visit our website about the wild horse issue. We're taking Jamie Dodson's Legacy Mustang is very close to our facility in Richmond. We're going to reach out to our car dealers. There's nobody more charitable in the whole world in your community than car dealers. Really, I mean, they're really involved in their community because they have to be, and they're usually owned by great egos, and they love community. So, you know, we can make a lot of impressions, but we have 2,800 of them, so we have got a lot of guys out there. But it's really great because that you use the network that we've been given. That's the success we've had today, is the network, is create a basis of friends. I got that network here at the summit because I wasn't alone. I had Paula Bacon, her testimony, and I have her on video with the vice president showing her this, you know, amazingly brave Texas woman with this attitudes going, not in my town, you know, no. No. So when I enter into the offices that I go, they come with me because it's their story. No, you know, if her testimony had been in Roswell, New Mexico, as an expert witness, the subject would have been over. Her testimony as the manager of a municipality, that subject would have been over. But John Holland traveled and gave the testimony, and it was helpful because that testimony went into public record. This is what we needed. People like us, the generation of finding the information and the argument. I can argue with this Dr. Hayes for 20 years. If it isn't present, if it isn't detectable, it isn't present. What? Radon? You know, come on. I mean, the mentality of this type of turning your door and saying, I don't care, I'm not going to look at it. But horse meat will kill you. I mean, and another aspect of horse slaughter is that we're going to end horses traveling over the border, I promise you. But the real subject that's interesting that no one's looking at, and we've just sponsored a research project to give me the information by early summer, is what about the animals in captivity that are fed horse meat? The large cats have a high rate of liver cancer. And I just found that out 2 days ago. I just got we're looking at in captivity, the big cats. What are they fed? Haunches of former racehorses. Susan will tell you that. She used to work in a zoo. That's very indicative of telling us what we're doing to ourselves. Is if the cats, the big cats, the carnivores that are in captivity, if there's a high cancer rate, if we look at their diet, is that the answer? I'm sure there are environmental answers, but is that a very big possibility? And that's very indicative of what we're doing to ourselves. It's not okay that we're not eating them here. It's not on our plate. It is in Canada. It is abroad in Asia. And it's our responsibility if it's coming from here. It's our direct liability. So in that case, what I'd like to say is that there's a way in government to work. There's a way to make it work when you have the answer. And doorways can open. People will listen. The Vice President is extraordinary on his help, and he's helping today, he's helping tomorrow, he's here to end the ultimate goal is to dequalify, unite policy. Public policy, I went to Harvard to the John F. Kennedy School of Public Policy, and I studied to find their policies, what the main connection is. And public policy is to improve the lives of stakeholders and to submit an opportunity to change something. Well, here we are. We're on the doorstep. We have the fact. We know it's cruel. We know it's not tolerable. The polls show America doesn't like this. Petitions and polls are only good and used by those who hear it. Sometimes they're used sideways. Medicine, fact, and a true health risk, such as been proposed by these individuals, is what we need, and it's working. So I think what I'd like to do is describe how we can take that particular mentality into the wild horse issue, because Ginger brought me in this. I'm in it, and I intend on taking the same premise. I've asked for questions to be asked for the Department of Interior, and that's happening. Questions are being asked, things are being looked at. This message that everyone's using and everyone's talking about is being heard. It's really being heard. Bundy, I couldn't have asked for a better way. The mentality of what's going on with welfare ranching, you couldn't choreograph that. I mean, I couldn't make this stuff up. You really think, okay, but intelligence has to conquer arrogance and a past that doesn't work. It's not efficient. And so we have to reinvent ourselves. We've got to recreate who we were. The other thing that's interesting, I'm reading an article the other day, and John Holland had a Equine Welfare Alliance in Las Vegas, where I saw my first Mustangs several years ago. And here's an interesting article from a gentleman in a rural heritage magazine. I read everything. I can't help it. I'm just crazy. But this is so amazing. Most Americans never get to know cattle, horses, or mules. They have no way of learning how to communicate with those wonderful animals. They do not develop trust, respect with a powerful living being. Thus, they do not learn the emotional lesson of developing relationships based on integrity. Isn't that true? I mean, isn't that really true? 4-H has a limited amount of kids. More kids are interested in computer graphics than they are 4-H. This is very, very important. This is who we are. Our heritage of farming, ranching, and the mentality and the wholesomeness of food has somehow evaporated. And we have to give it back, because that's who we are. Jobs creation, that's all we see in the media. Okay, well, here's a job. Let's start concentrating on food for the world and for ourselves. Let's make a big difference on who we are by what we eat. And let's create children to be accountable, responsible, because we're not getting it on the internet. It doesn't happen virtually. It happens from experience and impact. I mean, I can tell you, there's nothing in the world like being over in Europe and being in a major competition and having this amazing horse and going in as an American in a very hallowed ground in a show in Europe and being totally unqualified. That's me. No clue at all. Do not have a strategy. All my compatriots that are leaving from Wellington, Florida with all their Olympic horses, they've got all this mapped up. They're walking the course. They've got everything in increments. They know exactly what they're doing. I go in there, jump the first jump, think I have it all under control. After the first jump, forget it. I have no idea what I'm doing. It's out there. But I don't let them braid my horse's mane, because I need it to hold on to. And my 1,400-pound super stallion leans over when we get out and we're in the top 10. And, you know, and you look at him and go, how the hell did you do that? Why did you do that? And the answer is why? Is because I live with this horse every day. I love this horse beyond compare. It's an experience no one can describe. I could be around the world sitting on a yacht having grapes and enjoy myself. I'd rather be in my barn. I'd rather be with my horses. And I have geese. I have 2 big French geese, and I'm always in my barn. And my accounts will call me, and they think I'm in my office in a suit, and they, you know, and they hear honk honk, and that's my, and they go, what was that? And I go, I'm in traffic. But it's a way of life. It's a way of life that's so rewarding. You can have, I mean, you know, my favorite horse in my whole life is not a horse, it's a donkey. You know, and he greets everybody when you come into my farm. He has a stall and he greets everybody first, and he runs the whole stable. I saved him from slaughter, and he's just a miniature little guy. And one wonders, why would you slaughter this? It's too much work for what's there. It just doesn't make sense. But the truth is, this is a way of life, and I take that way of life into the White House. I take that way of life into politicians and go, this is quality. This is accountability. It makes you a team player. This is responsibility. That's the most greatest word we can use. Let's teach responsibility. And I'd rather have my kid in a barn. He's not going to smoke. I mean, you know, really, there's so many wonderful things in horses. And then horses have this fabulous network. Look at, they created all of us together, and then there's a network around the world. And my favorite thing is I'm very busy, and when I'm in an airport, I go on Facebook. You know, I've got a Facebook page, and I can only see Facebook in the airport. But when I go to Facebook, it's great. It's one of the favorite things is after we passed the budget, someone wrote to me and said, General, your soldiers are waiting. Now, you know, social media, when it crashes all the time because you have so many responses, you know that you're making some difference and that somebody's doing something for you. What's really great about it is, see, it's not my ideas. It's everybody out there. And there's the question about advocacy. I've got all these great minds and people that are working, and it's easy for me to do what I do. But the people that are hard for are the people that don't buy a new truck, they don't go on vacation, they buy and save horses, they buy hay instead of their new clothes. This is the group of people that I love so much. This is the people that I know and what they do and who they are. I mean, you know, heroes, true heroes that do everything, that are truly. Kathleen Doyle. I mean, look at this woman. Had nothing and convinced the state of California in 1998. Proposition 6. Don't slaughter horses. Let's not do this. You know, there are heroes behind me. I'm just following in their footsteps, but she taught us everything. Don't give up. You can do it. She didn't have money. She didn't have resources, but she won. And these are the people that we have in this group. And it gets bigger and bigger. And it's just so important. This group has got one thing to stand for, is that horses are our history. Horses mean something to us. The way of life means something to us. And the message is going through there. So what I think I'd like to do is maybe show a little video that'll show you a little bit about the support we have, and then I'll open for questions if you like.